all I'm sharing here is social skills that are going to help you play the game when it comes to the professional environment. Because when it comes to the professional environment, the truth of the matter is like there's a lot of politics. Relationships play a huge role in you getting opportunities. And if you get in the wrong side of people and people start not liking you, especially when you're new, that can be very detrimental to your opportunities in that specific organization where you're working. All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Alex Weezer podcast. I lost count already. How many episodes? I'm just kidding. I think it's just a 5th episode or 6th episode of the podcast. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for listening, for watching on YouTube. And I wanted to wear the headphones today to make it seem a little more legit, per se. Let's put it that way. But welcome here in this podcast. We discuss engineering career wisdom, personal development, human nature, and things along those lines. And let me tell you guys first before we get into it. Today we'll be talking about how to be more social as an entry-level engineer. That's going to be the Q&A that is going to be part of the second part of the episode. If you are on YouTube watching right now, then you're going to see the timestamps showing up. So make sure you get what you need out of today's episode. So I wanted to share that actually I went to a concert last Saturday. I went to a concert on, I want to say, what day is it today? Today is August 11th, and I went to a concert on Sunday, August 8th. It was a big concert, to be honest with you. It was Fall Out Boy, Weezer, Green Day. Green Day was a band that not so much I was looking forward to, but that I'm definitely glad I was able to see them. I never really saw them live, although I did listen to a lot of their music and a lot of their albums when I was growing up. The main one, of course, American Idiot. That was a album that I think a lot of people my age relate to if you ever listen to Green Day or punk rock per se. But yeah, so I'm not really someone that is too much into like punk rock or anything like that. I just kind of like the punk rock per se, like the most mainstream. But yeah, Green Day was awesome. I really liked their show. It was too sad that Fall Out Boy couldn't really make it. One of their members got COVID right before, or got tested and tested positive right before the concert, which, to be honest with you, I think that the whole thing could have been handled a little bit better. They didn't let the fans know that Fall Out Boy wasn't coming until the time of the concert itself, which was actually very shitty. A lot of people were upset, and to be honest, there's a lot of people that are hardcore fans of Fall Out Boy that would not have gone to the concert had they found out that they weren't coming. But anyway, it is what it is, but it just goes to show the importance of communication. And maybe the people from the venue didn't want to discourage people from going to the concert. Maybe they wanted people to come to the concert, even though they already knew that Fall Out Boy wasn't coming, because they wanted the sales and they wanted the concessions sales and stuff like that. So, I mean, could have been handled much better. So anyway, so hopefully we'll get to see Fall Out Boy in the future. But bang, guys, Green Day, I really did enjoy Green Day. And another thing that I wanted to share before we move on to the Q&A is the channel just reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And of course, I wanted to say thank you for that. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible. Thank you for your support, and thank you for pushing that button. That means you're interested in what I have to say and what I share here on the channel. So, of course, that does not go unnoticed, and I thank you for all of that. And it's kind of funny thinking back, well, not funny. It took me approximately almost 2 years to get to 1,000 subscribers. I know that the first 1,000 subscribers are a grind. I mean, it's a grind all along, but I think in the beginning, because you don't have the social proof just yet when it comes to people already following you, I think it's much harder to get your 1,000 subscribers, your first 1,000 subscribers as a smaller YouTuber. So the other good thing that comes with 1,000 subscribers is that I finally get to monetize YouTube videos. So that's cool. It's another stream of income, something that I tell you guys to work on, to develop. Whenever you have a chance, you have to set up a system where you are gaining income, not just from your job, but from other places as well. So that's a good thing. And as I was saying a little earlier, how it took me 2 years, and my channel has been a roller coaster now that I think about it. And I'm going to make a whole video about how I reached 1,000 subscribers, because there's a lot of lessons that I learned from the first couple of years here on YouTube, and sharing videos and sharing content with you guys. I remember my first video ever. I think it was a video. No, I think it was a fitness video. Yeah, in the beginning, my channel was fitness related, and I was sharing tips on how to lose weight, eating ice cream. I was sharing nutritious, quote unquote, nutritious or macro friendly ice cream that would help you lose weight and things like that. Now that I'm looking back, it's like, okay, maybe fitness wasn't one thing. It wasn't my thing. Even though it's something that you're into, maybe it's not something that it's meant for you. Just for example, just because I like soccer and I enjoy soccer, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be a pro, or soccer is just for me. So there's things that you like and things that are, but just because you like it, it doesn't mean that it's something that is just meant for you to happen, especially when you are developing a YouTube channel, when you're working on a YouTube channel where you're going to be sharing a lot of your expertise and a lot of insight and wisdom on that channel based on that one topic that you kind of sort of like. So you have to be more committed per se, and I wasn't really committed with fitness. It's something that I practice every day of my life. You guys see me that I post on Instagram, or I've been doing that for a long time when it comes to like exercising and staying active. So, but anyway, this is part of the process, trial and error. It's all, I think, part of the journey where you start exposing yourself to different experiences, different situations. And then as you evolve and as time goes by, then of course you start finding what your thing is, and you start kind of like just dialing in per se. So that's where we are. It's a big achievement in my eyes, reaching 1,000 subscribers. So again, thank you very much for everything. And I will make another episode where I definitely show everything that I wish I would have known back at 0 subscribers, for maybe one of you guys who is looking to start a YouTube channel in the future, or maybe anybody else out there who is just trying to get a little push and encouragement and a little bit of wisdom to get there, to get to 1,000 subscribers. So thank you guys very much. And now the last thing I want to mention here before we jump into the Q&A, which is going to be just one question today. I have a lot to go over. I wanted to share a personal development tip of the day. And the personal development tip of the day, the PDTP, I just came up with it. It's learn to look past social media. Again, learn to look past what you see on social media, the pretty pictures, the pretty videos. And a couple of days ago, I shared a very short video on YouTube on how it's important to look past what we see on social media, because a lot of the times people tend to compare. We tend to compare ourselves to others. And it's completely natural. I was reading, and I was learning that from this book right here, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, where he explains that comparing ourselves to others is completely natural, that people at some point in different levels have those feelings of envy. Now, of course, it becomes detrimental to your mental health when you just cannot stop comparing yourself to other people, when you're wishing you had somebody else's car, when you're always wishing you just had somebody else's life, and you just feel sorry for yourself. Of course, at that point, it just becomes like too much. It becomes too detrimental to your well-being, right? So the first thing to realize here is to know that no one is perfect, regardless of how many pretty pictures or how many amazing videos you see them enjoying the nightlife. And let me share something with you when it comes to like these crazy nightlife and party videos that we see sometimes. we see raves and we see people popping bottles and like crowd surfing and jumping off cliffs and going to like deep blue water. I mean, it all looks cool, right? And I don't mean to like toot my own horn here. I think that's how you say it. But so I've been in those situations. I've been in situations when you go to the beach and you jump and you do jet skiing, and then you go to raves and like you're having a great time with your friends. And trust me, it's awesome. It's a great time, but it's not as amazing. It's not as amazing as the video edits make a party to be. The video edits, you have to keep into account that they're going from one angle to another. They're switching angles. The music is on point, like the beats and everything just comes together to make you want to desire that type of lifestyle, especially when it comes to like party companies advertising their products, right? But trust me, man, that's like, I mean, it's awesome. It's great to go out and party and enjoy yourself and like travel and stuff like that. But don't think that it's just, wow, this life is amazing. And not only that, I mean, not only is it not that, like, I mean, at least for me, right? But also it only happens for a little bit. Like it's not a lifestyle that you can sustain for a long time. You know, think about it, like spending nights out, drinking and partying. And I mean, if that's the case, that by the time you're 30, 40, like you'll be done. Like that's it, man. Your body would say, all right, now I'm going to start giving you the receipt for everything that you did throughout your year. So it's something to keep in mind, you know. So no one is perfect, regardless of how many pretty pictures or videos you see. Even the perfect parties, like it's a lot of video editing that you see, or that we see on social media. So look past that. And also, like, don't put people on a pedestal. I talked about this in the past. See people for how they are. People make mistakes. People have flaws. People fart. People burp. So this goes with celebrities, with people that you see everywhere. Maybe you even that you're listening, that you're watching. Like, yes, I mean, I do all those things. I fart or burp. And so don't put people on the pedestal. You know, it's just, we're humans, man. So don't idolize people. That's my point. Don't make them seem like, oh my God, this person is a god. Like, some people do that to some famous people out there, and it really amazes me. It's crazy. I'm not saying that there's nothing. I'm not saying don't admire people. Of course, I admire people as well. I have deep admiration and respect for many people out there. But I don't put them on a pedestal. You know, don't think that they're just perfect, because no one is perfect. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention here, when it comes to learning to look past social media, like if you compare yourself to other people and you want their lifestyle that bad, if you just wishing and dreaming about what they have, then why not make it a goal? You know, like, as opposed to envy them, as opposed to you always just comparing yourself and crying because you're not there, then why don't you ask yourself, okay, how can you get there? You know, what did they do? Is there something you can do to get to where they are? Like, for example, if I envied Cristiano Ronaldo's lifestyle, like if I always wanted to be like him and like have all this money, all these cars, and like all these companies, okay, what did he do? He did a lot, right? I mean, and he started when he was very, very young. I mean, you don't have to be a soccer player, but you can come up with other business ideas that could help you get there, or at least put you on the way to get there. So ask yourself, how can you get to the place where people you're comparing yourself to are getting? Use it as fuel, is my point, as opposed to you seeing barriers and then using your feeling bad. As opposed to you feeling bad, just use them as fuel and see how you can get there. So when you do all of this, guys, there's gonna be less self-demeaning comparison with other people. There's gonna be more focus on your path, like, which is what matters in the end, right? You gotta focus on your path. There's gonna be less pressure to be someone else. Focus on you, and it's gonna be a better mental health. Now, I'm not saying, of course, that you should just stay stagnant. I'm not someone that promotes staying stagnant and just using everything as an excuse and saying I'm okay the way I am, because we could all be just a little better, you know, just a little better. And the changes happen throughout months, throughout years. Like, if you day to day, that's a goal, something that we can strive for. But the real changes that I personally see, at least, happen over months and years. So, but of course, it all comes down to the day-to-day activities that we do. As I mentioned earlier, the daily activities that we do help us predict the future, help us see what the future could look like. So, with all that being said, after my short life update and the news that I reached 1,000 subscribers and the personal development tip of the day, now we are going to go into the second half of the episode, and that is Q&A when it comes to engineering this time. And I have one question here, and the question is, what are some social skills young engineers should learn when entering industry? Again, what are some social skills young engineers should learn when entering industry? And I have a lot of tips. So brace yourselves. And it may be a little overwhelming to you guys, but hey, take it for what it's worth. Take it one step at a time. Come back and listen to this podcast in the future if you think that you forgot something. So definitely, don't feel overwhelmed. There's a lot of tips that I'm going to be showing you and sharing with you. And of course, a lot of the social skills or at least that I know and that I've applied throughout my life, is some things that I learned along the way. You can't possibly apply every single social skill, quote unquote social skill or social technique or tactic, whatever you want to call it, every time you meet someone, because maybe the situation is not right, or maybe you have very little time, or maybe the timing is just way too long. So there's a lot of factors and parameters that you have to take into account. So don't think that you're going to be able to apply every single social skill at all times. So it's just going to be something that you learn along the way. Right now, you are in your early 20s, maybe mid 20s, and that's when you start actually getting out there. You start developing yourself a little further and deeper. So it's good. It's good that you're listening and that you are interested in actually improving yourself and learning additional skills that can help you not only in your career, but of course also in your personal life. All right, just took a little break because the camera sometimes overheats. So I'm back. And the first tip that I have here for you is to listen to people. When it comes to social skills, I know, right? I know that we hear this a lot, and I'm like, oh my God, you're like, Alex, I've heard this many times, man. Like, tell me something new. Hey, if you heard this many times, then it's probably for a reason, right? It's probably for a reason. And listening to people is perhaps the cornerstones of social skills, one of the cornerstones of social skills. Most of the people don't listen, and I used to be there, and it takes effort, because listening, guys, and paying attention, it takes conscious effort to actually hear people out and pay attention to what they're saying. A lot of the times, something that happened before I was aware of this, or how important listening was, I used to kind of always try to come up. I used to, number one, interrupt people. I used to always try to come up with something, an answer to what they were saying, halfway through what they were saying. For example, if you're talking to me, halfway through what you're saying, I would already thinking about the next question. I would already be thinking about what to say to answer, to reply to whatever it is that you were saying. So paying attention and letting people finish their thoughts, and then understanding what they're saying. And if you don't understand something, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for a clarification. And one technique that I think it's useful when you are attempting to listen is that whenever you really are trying to capture what other people are saying, is to repeat what they're saying and say it in your words. So that's going to show, number one, that you're paying attention to them, but also that you are actually listening and understanding what they're saying and what they're coming from. So that's something that you can do. Ask questions. If you're extremely, if you actually do this, I think that you are extremely likely to stand out from the crowd when you actually do listen and pay attention. So the second tip that I have here for you is being empathetic. I know the buzzword, but it's not a buzzword, guys. Maybe I'm just calling it a buzzword because I also hear a lot, but I know being empathetic, empathy, it's about at least trying to understand people, right? Like at least trying to understand where they're coming from, at least trying to put yourself in the shoes of others to see why they're saying what they're saying, or to have a deeper connection other than you just kind of detaching yourself completely from other people. Especially when there's a lot of disagreement, when there's a lot of conflict. I think the key to overcome those types of situations is to actually try to understand what the other person is coming from. I'm not saying this is going to solve all your problems, but it's definitely a step there, being empathetic. But yeah, so also when it comes to being empathetic, don't just shit all over other people's ideas, and especially when in a professional environment, like don't tell people straight up, your idea sucks, or I mean, you can. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying no. I'm not saying that you can. I'm saying that you shouldn't do it, because that's just going to put you on the wrong side of people. It's just disrespectful, not courteous, not polite. So don't do that. Like learn to bring up your approach without shitting on other people's ideas. One of the techniques that I personally like to use whenever there's a little bit of disagreement and conflict, or maybe I just want to share my idea, is I say another approach could be, number one, I tell the other person, whoever is sharing their idea, if I actually understand what they're saying, then I say, I understand what you're saying, but here's another approach. I understand what you're saying, but how about this or how about that? Like, ask questions about their approach if it's something that you don't fully agree with. And again, listen, ask if you need any clarifications. Feel free to ask for the clarification, and people will appreciate that. Most reasonable people will appreciate you asking a little deeper about their ideas and perspectives when it comes to dealing with especially when it comes to dealing with this disagreement. So being empathetic, listening to people so far. Number 3, this goes related to the first 2, learning to deal with conflict and diffusing difficult situations. And one time, to go on a little tangent here, one time I was approximately 4 years into the field, maybe 3 or 4 years into the field. And I was dealing with this much older engineer, and we were going over some deadlines, and there was some stuff that he and his team needed to do. And because I kept pushing and pressing when they would be able to provide their work to us, because my work was to manage the schedule and to make sure everything flowed smoothly. So if I didn't have the work that this engineer and his team were supposed to provide, then it would be detrimental to the schedule and follow and meeting the deadlines that we needed to meet. So I asked him, I was like, hey, so what is it that you need exactly so that you can perform so you can complete the job, basically. I asked him something along those lines. And then he kind of started going off on me. I don't know if it was the way I asked the question. Also a lesson learned, right? I don't know if it was the way I asked the question, or he started going off on me and telling me that, you can do whatever the hell you want. And of course, this would have been bad had I replied with just as much attitude. If I actually started yelling back, it would have not gone well, right? Just like not. And at this point, I remember that that's why I tell you guys to observe people. At this point, I remember that a little while earlier, I was listening to somebody else handle conflict, and it was a very similar situation. And what I said to this engineer was, hey, I'm not trying to be contentious. All I'm trying to do is help you get what you need so that we can proceed with what we need to get done. It's nothing against you. I'm just trying to give you exactly what you need so that we can all move forward. Like, I know that it's frustrating. I understand that, but I'm just trying to help you so that we can move forward with the project, the design, whatever it was. And after that, after he saw me not yelling back and not giving him attitude, he immediately calmed down like this. He immediately calmed down. I felt it in his voice. I felt it in his attitude. And then he was like, okay, I'll get back to you. So that was, I was like, wow, this actually really does work. So you got to learn to deal with conflict, diffuse difficult situations. I just gave you an example, a case study. And I think some of the keys and it's finding common ground, reminding everyone that it's not about being contentious, right? It's about reaching a common goal. It's about helping each other. And also, like, don't embarrass people who you think may be wrong. Like, even if somebody is wrong, there are ways that you can bring that up to them. Like, maybe try to address it one-on-one, unless, of course, you have to say it in front of everyone, in front of public. And in that case, don't tell them flat out. Don't tell them that's bullshit or that's just dumb. It's like, no. Like, use your social skills. You have to use some tact. And the truth of the matter is, guys, you can be blunt, right? You can be, I don't have anything against you being blunt. If that's your personality, that is you. All I'm sharing here is social skills that are going to help you play the game when it comes to the professional environment. You know, because when it comes to the professional environment, the truth of the matter is, like, there's a lot of politics. Relationships play a huge role in you getting opportunities. And if you get in the wrong side of people and people start not liking you, especially when you're new, that can be very detrimental to your opportunities in that specific organization where you're working. So that's why it seems like I'm kind of like going along the waves and stepping on eggshells, maybe, right? But that's kind of like one of the things that I've seen people do when it comes to dealing with conflict in professional environments. So I'm telling you what I've learned and my personal experience. So, but of course, you can do whatever you want, of course. All right. So the next thing that I want to go over here is when it comes to also being social and your social skills. Also, another cornerstone, I suppose, aside from listening, it's also like being genuinely interested in people's stories. We all can be a little bit egocentric, right? When people are interested in what we have to say, of course, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like they want to listen to me. They want to listen to what I have to say. But also, in order for us to be social humans, we are social beings, right? We also have to be a little bit interested and generally interested in what people have to say, their stories and like their ideas, their perspectives, especially also when people are working in a professional environment. And also like at a deeper level as well, on a personal level, of course, 100%. Because at the end of the day, people that spend a lot of time together when you're in the office working 40, 50, 35 hours, however long you work, you start developing, you cannot help but start developing a little more one-on-one connections with people, despite of how introverted you think you may be. So that's just one of the things that I've seen and that I've learned. Number 5, also, know yourself and be self-aware. How social are you, or how do you perform better one-on-one situations when you're holding a conversation, or maybe in a crowd? People have different ways to interact with one another. Some people feed off a crowd and they just like to be very popular and they like all eyes on them and the attention. Others are much better on one-on-one situations. Despite of what you may think, actually, I am much better at one-on-one situations. Much better at one-on-one situations than when I'm dealing with the crowd. So this can be very helpful if you are looking to practice for a presentation. Maybe you want to bring up an issue, or maybe you want to bring up an idea. Maybe you want to share a one-on-one first. And actually, I suggest this you do one-on-one anyways. But also, like when it comes to outside of work and your personal life, like how do you perform better? Are you better with friends on one-on-one? Maybe you want to have dinner with one person as opposed to just having dinner with like a bunch of like other people, other like 10 friends, and you can't really pay attention to one of them. So I'm much better one-on-one. I know that's the case, and I much rather spend one-on-one time with people. So, but that's just me. So position yourself in a situation that is best for you, of course. The next thing that I want to share here with you, and I'm going to go over these again, like a little bit more quickly. Also, like, don't be too negative and complain all the time. People don't like to be around negative people. Do you like to be someone that is negative and always complaining and always feeling like the victim and always feeling like the world's against them? It's like, no, right? I mean, at least I don't. I know I don't for sure. Also, control your emotions and be patient. Control your emotions. Take a deep breath. There will be times when people will be testing you, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. They'll be poking you, they'll be pushing your buttons, and some people are just, you're going to run into people that are passive aggressive. So take a deep breath, and that's the best thing that I can tell you. Take a deep breath, leave the room if you have to, I've never been in a situation like that when it's like that crazy. But also like when it comes to being assertive, control your emotions and being patient also is very important when being assertive and showing confidence. I talked about this in the past in the channel on how when it comes to being assertive, the key is to remain calm in difficult situations. So take a deep breath, focus on the message that you're trying to deliver, and not so much on kicking, screaming, and crying. Because when you start doing that, when you start kicking and screaming and crying, and you just start like pulling your hair, people will start focusing on your emotions and the way you're acting as opposed to the message that you're trying to deliver. So pay attention to that. Also, as an engineer, this one is very, very important when it comes to social skills. Know your audience. Know your audience. If someone is not an engineer, be mindful and remember that, because they're not really going to need as much detail as you think. They don't really care. In fact, one of the things that I've experienced in my personal career is that the higher the higher the position in a company or any organization, the less they care about the technical issues, you having issues with a little valve, or you having issues or coding issues, or you having any sort of like, oh my God, the pressure here is not right. Like, they're not going to care about that. They're going to care about the bottom line. They care about the money. They care about whether or not they're going to meet their deadlines. And also they care about whether or not the problems that you're running into now are going to get solved. And it's funny story here, not really a story, but a comment. It's kind of funny how when everything is going well, no one cares, right? Because no one's got time to say, yes, everything is going well. Whenever you're there when things are going wrong, that's where people spend 95% of the time. Because if you're spending your time on things that are going well, then what are you doing? Like, nobody will have a job, right? If the world were perfect, then we wouldn't be needed, right? Like, everything would already be, like your skills, your expertise, you wouldn't be needed if everything were going well. So just prepare yourself and always remember that if you are somewhere, if you're needed somewhere, it's most likely because they need your help fixing things and things are going wrong. Otherwise, they wouldn't need you. So the problems will never end. That's just the nature of life. It's nature in your personal life. It's nature in the work that we do. So, and engineers are problem solvers by default. So if you are somewhere, it's because there are problems that need to be solved. Also, a couple of last tips here when it comes to social skills, guys. Bear with me here. Learn to tell stories. Oh my God. Okay, this is something that I'm still working on myself. Telling stories. This is very engaging when it comes to talking with your coworkers, when it comes to interviews, when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to you asking for perhaps even funding for your company, for your branch. Like, learn to tell stories. It's very, very powerful. And we humans, one of the things that I've learned recently is that we connect to stories more than somebody just telling us straight up data and straight up facts. So learn to tell stories. I suggest you look into that yourself. It's something that I'm still learning. I'm still practicing. If you notice on my YouTube channel lately, I've been telling stories a little more often than I used to, for sure. And it's been quite a ride. I like it. I like telling stories that actually come out well. Sometimes I butcher stories, but yeah. But that's the idea. All right. The last couple of tips here. When it comes to social skills and having conversations, don't feel like you have to be talking 100% of the time. Like, don't feel like you have to be talking. Like, don't feel every gap with talking. Like, don't feel awkward. I know it's like natural, where it's like, oh my God, it's silence now. They might think that I'm being an idiot. It's like, no. Some people just want to take a break. Like, nobody wants to be talking 100% of the time. So don't feel like you have to fill every gap with talking, especially when it's a networking session, right? Here's what I want to say when it comes to networking with other people. If you already had a short conversation and things are going well, you already introduced yourself and you already know what each of you guys do and blah, blah. After a couple of minutes, if there's really nothing else that you think that you can talk about, end the conversation on a high note. Say, so-and-so, it was great meeting you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking. I will keep in touch. And that's it. And you just leave on a good note, leave on a high note. You don't have to drag the conversation until the end, until you're just sick of each other. Because at that point, then it's just going to turn into a what would you say? It's like more like a burn bridge, because you're not really leaving people feeling good, So don't extend the conversation a lot longer than it needs to. Like, if you need to go, and like, that's it. Just thank you for being here. Like, thank you for like nice meeting you. And like, we'll keep in touch, and that's it. Get your business card or whatever it is that you Instagram, whatever, LinkedIn, whatever it is that you need to do. All right. When it comes to being in the office, also make sure that when it comes to social skills, like something that is very, very important, I think, it's also spending time outside the office. Like when it comes to like going out to get coffee, going out to get lunch. And some people may think that this is a waste of time, and it could be. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of the times, one thing I've noticed is like when you go to lunch, when you go get coffee with your coworkers, or even when you're just having coffee in the office, in the kitchenette, that's where you kind of start getting one-on-one interactions with people, and they start getting their insights, they're getting their ideas, what they really think about a certain problem. Yes, sometimes you will be talking about things outside of work, but also like those one-on-one conversations, like I mentioned, you got to know where you perform best. Those one-on-one walks to the coffee shop are actually where people actually tell you what they really think. People aren't going to always share what they think deep down in a crowd, because they don't know what the crowd is going to think. And also like maybe they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot, right? So what I would suggest is, if you're invited to lunch, if you're invited to coffee, and of course use common sense if you have time, I would go. It's something that I've done for forever. Like, somebody asked me to go to coffee, I said, yeah, let's go, man, let's go. And we chit chat about work, and we chit chat about personal life. And hey, it's up to you. Use common sense. I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm just telling you some social cues that I've learned throughout the years. And the last one that I have here, and what it really, really, really boils down to, guys, I honestly think it's about courtesy, respect, in my personal opinion, and being polite. Nowadays, all these things can take you so far. All these things themselves can take you so far. Courtesy, respect, and just being polite. It doesn't mean that you're gonna let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean that you're just going to be like a little puppy on the corner, just always saying, bowing out to everyone. No, you can also be assertive. You can also be confident when it comes to, but it doesn't mean that you cannot be polite. Like, being confident and being assertive and making a name for yourself doesn't mean that you have to be aggressive and yelling at people. And I mean, I guess you could do that, but then it's not going to really work out well. So being polite, respect, and courtesy, I think, and being generally interested in people's opinions. If I had to summarize it all in one tip: courtesy, respect, being polite, and then being generally interested in people's stories and what they have to say. So that's it. That's all for this episode. I hope this episode was useful and valuable. If it was, make sure that you subscribe, like this video if you're on YouTube. I definitely do appreciate your support. It is 7:30 a.m. on August 11th. Today is Wednesday. Wow. Wednesday already. Jeez. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and take care. Have a great one.